That's fine too.
Meeting of the City of Vandalia will now come to order. We will have a moment of reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Would you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council members, you have had an opportunity to look over the council special meeting minutes of November the 20th, the council study session minutes of November the 20th, and the council meeting minutes of November the 20th. Do you have any revisions? Seeing none, they'll stand approved. We have no communication, petitions, and awards this evening, nor do we have any public hearing. And that brings us to comments from interested citizens. So if you would like to make a comment to us, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address for our records, and then your statement.
My name is Dan Dutton, and I live at 3120 Stone Quarry Road. I've resided there since 1990. I was a ball commissioner and served this city for many years until essentially you dissolved the committees. My concern has to do with the, go back to the beginning, the conditional use 1238.04. While reviewing this, that's flawed. The conditions that you provided for that use for Harris sod and seed to be able to have conditional use at that time review, I believe there are areas that haven't been explored or looked into when you had your meetings. I was not aware that you were having the meetings, and so I would have been present prior to this point before we got this far with the issues. What my problem is with it is the amount of traffic flow that's been created just by that one business being at that location. The city of Vandalia has problems with large vehicles already that are traveling right through the middle of town on National Road, and there's a considerable amount of traffic that has been found on Dogleg Road south of National all the way down to Stone Quarry Road. The amount of traffic is coming from as far away as Huber Heights and further, and it's not just individuals with small trailers, but after a storm, it looks like a parade coming down Stone Quarry Road of trailers, of groundskeepers and whatever, with debris all flowing all over their vehicle, and it falls off on the road. The road is deteriorating bad enough, fast enough. And this isn't just on Stone Quarry. We've got it on Dixie, you've got it on National, and the worst section of Dogleg Road lays between Stone Quarry and National Road. If any of you have driven that area, you're well aware of how bad it is. It's maintained by the county, and they did a very shoddy repair of that. And in my conversation with Erica from the Butler Township, she said that she's aware of how bad it is, and she will contact the county and ask for resolution, some with that, to try to do better with what repairs they've done. There hasn't been anything addressed with that for those areas, and they're just not up to par for that much traffic. And like I said, we're not talking about small vehicles with a little trailer behind them. We're getting 10-wheeled dump trucks and sometimes 18-wheeled dump trucks traveling down Stone Quarry Road, onto Dogleg Road, and up to that facility to be able to go up and dump. I've followed some of them in. There's nobody there to attend and watch what they're bringing inside there. I've talked to some of the drivers, and they say, gosh, this is great for us because we can just wheel right on in here. Well, let's look at how fast they travel down Stone Quarry Road. I paced them, and I run radar myself, and I know how fast they're going. I went in and actually followed the one truck in, spoke with the driver. He was very kind about it, and he said, you're right. He says, I'm trying to get in as many loads in a day as I can, and my concern isn't so much with the speed limit, it's just getting in there, make my dump, and get back out. Once again, there's nobody there monitoring like this provisions had provided, that there would be somebody to watch what they're bringing in to dump. You take one of these trucks that's 10-wheeled, that's that much traffic on that road. I welcome any of you, before you pass this resolution, to drive that section from National to Stone Quarry and see what you think of the road itself if you haven't done it. So, whereas, please do not pass 1276-35, the mulch provision, for that. At least until these issues have been addressed. Like I said, it looks like a parade after there is a storm of vehicles that come down Stone Quarry. I don't think you've ever had a police officer set right there on Stone Quarry and look at that. You leave that to the township to be able to monitor the speeds on Stone Quarry Road. Put them on up further in the city. Put them in the church right there and watch the speed that comes down through there. And the speed progresses and exceeds itself as they get further into the township where they think they're going to be safe. The drivers say they like it. They say that this is great. They can come from Huber Heights and they can take down entire tree stumps, bring them right up, dump them right off right there. It's quick, it's easy and out for them. There's nobody really there to watch what they're doing. It's not monitored. I've called other companies that have had the names on the side of their truck. From me living on Stone Quarry Road at 3120, after 27 years, I've watched the traffic on Stone Quarry increase and increase. But this last year, since you guys, the council has given permission with the conditional to be able to have that dump there, the traffic has just gotten way out of hand. I call the company and I'll ask to speak to the owner. They're very polite about it. And most of the time they're not aware that their driver is exceeding the speed as they travel down that road. Most of the companies are very respectful about it and actually do say something to their driver about it afterwards. But tandem 10-wheel trucks on a continual basis traveling Stone Quarry Road is totally out of line. Occasionally we get a lost 18-wheeler that's taken Peters Pike the wrong direction trying to get to Procter & Gamble. And one of those, it's going to happen. I understand that. But when it's time after time after time and it's a parade after a storm, it's not something the city's going to profit from having that there. Harris Sod and Seed quit helping this city promote the sports programs when they pulled out. They used to sponsor sports programs for us. They're not there anymore. Ask Steve Clark, and I think he'll tell you, Harris hasn't sponsored anything for this city for a number of years. I don't understand why the city would go ahead and bend over backwards in something that's not going to end up producing any real revenue for the city, unless I'm wrong and there's something more going on. So all I ask is, please do not pass 1276-35 this evening. It is not in this city's best interest. It is not in the township's best interest. I don't think it's in the county itself's best interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else?
I didn't know if this was the time he was going to address mulch processing or not, but
I believe.
I'm going to follow Dan's lead.
Well, it's
It's up
really
to you,
more
ma'am.
appropriate when we come to the second reading, when we have the public hearing for that kind of, but if you want to do it now, that's up to you.
I will wait, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Holly Wiggins, 660 Castle Creek Drive. I'm here as Director of Community and Corporate Social Responsibility for Dayton Power and Light Company. Just a reminder to you that we've kicked off our Gift of Power program that I mentioned last meeting. It is the season of giving, so if any of the citizens are looking for some place to give that helps others pay for their heat during the cold winter months, that is a program that you can give and donate to, that Dayton Power and Light works with Salvation Army to fund. And then come the day after Martin Luther King Day, those that fall into that income bracket of 200% of poverty will be eligible to apply for those benefits through the Salvation Army. So I wanted to make you aware of the program and remind you to recall that program, especially when a citizen comes to you for some help. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we'll continue on with the city manager's report. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to let everybody know that city offices are going to be closed on Monday, December 25th and Tuesday, December 26th in observance of the Christmas holiday. City offices are also going to be closed on Monday, January 1 in observance of the New Year's holiday. The first council meeting in January will actually be Tuesday, January 2nd. The rec center will be closed on December 24th and December 25th. Again, it will open back up and it will be open on December 31st from 12 until 6 p.m. So it'll be closing early on New Year's Day. I'm sorry, it'll close early New Year's Eve. It will be closed on New Year's Day. The second item is our annual report and calendar is ready for distribution. So the Vandalia Butler High School Honor Society will once again be distributing the 2017-18 annual report calendar to every residence and business on Saturday, December 16th. So every calendar will be delivered in a shrink wrap to prevent the damage due to exposure to the elements. In exchange for their work, the group will be presented with a contribution from the city towards their scholarship fund.
Thank you very much. We have some action items this evening. Boards and commission appointment, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Terry Landis has requested appointment to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Council has had an opportunity to review her application and had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Landis prior to this meeting in our study session.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Your Honor, I'll move that we nominate Ms. Terry Landis to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Lewis, second by Councilwoman Farce, that we appoint Ms. Tara Landis to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Are there any comments? I'll just say that during our little interview, she was very enthusiastic, and I'm sure she's going to be a great addition to the board. So with that, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gerhardt?
Yes.
Councilmember Farce?
Yes.
Councilmember Herbst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ehlers?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Setzer?
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Boards and commissions appointment, and this is for the Public Art and Vandalia Committee. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. So Debbie Fain has requested appointment to the Public Art and Vandalia Committee. Once again, Council's had an opportunity to review Ms. Fain's application, as well as an opportunity to speak with her in the study session prior to our meeting this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the appointment of Deborah Fain to the Public Art and Vandalia Committee.
Second.
Ooh.
I won.
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved by Councilwoman Farr, second by Councilman Herbst, that we do appoint Deborah Fain to the Public Art and Vandalia Committee. Are there any comments? Well, I'll just have to echo it again. Once again, during our little interview period, very much involved in city activities, and will make a very good addition to the committee itself. With that, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Councilmember Herbst,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Gerhart,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Yes.
Mayor Setzer.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. We have no old business, and that brings us to our first and only resolution this evening, and that's 17-R-94. Mr. McDonald?
Resolution 17R94. Final resolution enacted by the City of Vandalia for Ohio PID ODOT Project 103062, being the resurfacing of Airport Access Road from Vandalia North Corp Limit to Vandalia South Corp Limit.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, the Airport Access Road is scheduled to be resurfaced in 2018. This resolution confirms the city's participation in this project and estimates our cost at $231,873.30. Because ODOT will be opening bids for this project on January 11th of 2018, the city's funds need to be made available to ODOT by December 22nd of this year. Therefore, it's necessary to appropriate the $231,873.30 in this year in order to make those funds available to ODOT, and we do have a supplemental appropriation ordinance on this evening that would take care of that.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Your Honor, move that we approve Resolution 17R94 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Lewis, second by Councilman Gerhart, that we do approve Resolution 17-R-94 as presented. Are there any comments? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Herbst,
Yes.
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Gerhart,
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Yes.
Mayor Setzer.
Yes, and the motion carries 7-0. We have an ordinance in its first reading, and that's 17-31. Mr. McDonald?
Ordinance 1731, an ordinance amending section 1040.04, 05, and 06 of chapter 1040 water and sewer permits, section 1042.05, .10, .13, .14, and .26 of chapter 1042 water generally, subsections 1044.06B and 1044.06G, and subsection 1044.07A of chapter 1044 sewers generally, Section 1045.02.26 and 28 of Chapter 1045 Stormwater Charge Generally. Section 1060.08 and 09 of Chapter 1060 Garbage and Rubbish Collection and Disposal of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Vandalia, and creating Chapter 1049 Utility Billing and Collection, all regarding deposits, billing, collection, penalties relating to utilities.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, so this ordinance would amend the delinquent fees and turn off charges for utility counts as well as the stormwater fee. Specifically, residential commercial counts would now be charged with a 15% delinquent charge on the 15th business day of the month. For metered accounts, for residential purposes, there would be no minimum charge for inactive accounts. For stormwater fees, the stormwater fee would be increased from $2 per ERU to $2.30 per ERU, and single-family residence is changed to include all residential properties with 4 or less units. And we did have some discussion prior to this meeting regarding our shut-off fee, which I think council may want to make an amendment to this ordinance.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I move that we table ordinance 17-31 in its first reading.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Forrest, second by Councilman Blakesley, that we table ordinance 1731 in its first reading. Mr. McDonald, do we need to have a time set for when this will be?
I don't think we actually have to set one. We had discussed that we were going to hear this at the next available meeting.
The next available meeting.
Which I think is a special meeting so that it can be heard at the next regular council meeting
Okay.
and decided at that point.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you please call the roll
Okay, and again, this is for the motion to table.
to table?
Councilmember Ayers,
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley,
Yes.
Councilmember Gerhard,
Yes.
Councilmember Fairst,
Yes.
Councilmember Herbst,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis,
Yes.
Mayor Setzer.
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. We have some ordinances in, we have one ordinance in the second reading, and that's ordinance 17-33. Mr. McDonald?
Ordinance 1733, an ordinance amending the Vandalia Code to provide for mulch processing facilities as a conditional use.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy?
I was going to ask for something, but you want to go?
Let me go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so this ordinance would establish a mulch processing facility as a conditional use in the agriculture district. Additionally, this legislation establishes conditions that all mulch processing facilities must comply with in order to be granted conditional use approval.
Thank you.
And
Mr. McDonald?
yes, if I may, I just want to remind council and the audience here and those that see in the video, because I hear it a lot, that this ordinance is citywide. It is not site-specific, meaning if this ordinance passes, in order for somebody to have a facility, they will have to come back to the city and get a conditional use permit, go to Planning Commission, come back to council, at which point the factors that are set forth in here, assuming it passes, would be applied as it relates to that facility. And the reason I'm kind of going over this is we have had mountains of information on this, probably more than I've seen on an issue in my 12-plus years doing this. This has been on our agenda for almost a year. I think the staff report's original date is February 2017. And yeah, I had some questions from council, so I'll just answer it to all of you. And the answer is, well, you have asked these questions, and the answer is no. You do not have to address each and every issue that you considered when you do your vote. And yes, you are free to identify any particular issues that you thought were more compelling on your vote. But there was so much stuff here over the course of these several months that I think some of you weren't too sure how you could process it, if you will. So that being said, I thank you, Your Honor, for
Okay.
indulging me.
Since this is an ordinance in its second reading, I'm going to open up a public hearing. So if there is anyone in the audience who wants to make comment, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address for our records and your comment.
Good evening. I'm Rod Lechner. I live at 8839 Dogleg Road, and these comments are specifically geared towards all residents of Vandalia and associated adjacent Butler Township or Huber Heights or whoever surrounds Vandalia. And I took time to type this out so I wouldn't go on, and I'd be to the point and somewhat brief. Proposed mulch processing facility code leaves Vandalia Butler residents vulnerable to significant adverse quality of life conditions, health risk, and liability issues. A few serious examples: noise, water and air pollution, decreased property values, and liability. Noise. Neighbors can be forced to cope with significant industrial noise annoyance and increased traffic noise. It's totally different than agricultural noise and zoning. Water pollution. Mulch processing, leachate, and runoff can contaminate wells and stream. Air pollution. Surrounding neighbors will be forced to live in an environment where studies have shown the health hazards of industrial wood waste operations. Mulch processing can pose risk for human health due to increased exposure of infectious and hazardous agents. And that's one example that the companion neighbors are going to address in a little more detail for you. Decreased property values. And I'm just hoping your analysis aligns with what we have found. Decreased property values. Add adverse effects of aesthetics, odor, traffic, and fire safety with the above life health issues, and what residents work so hard for is gone. Liability. Who is responsible for decreased property values, air and water testing, providing safe water to our homes, and potential related health care expenses? Now, a little more general, which is specific to the code that I believe you have on the table. In recommending it and talking about the code, to, I believe it was the Planning Commission or to you, I read that basically staff was spot on with their suggestion and recommendation. Industrial mulch processing should be industrial zone versus agricultural, if at all. Spot on, staff. The 500-foot residential distance turns a blind eye to the magnitude of mulch processing industrial noises and the impact upon churches, schools, and other businesses. I seriously believe that if any of you had to endure this noise, you would see clearly that the proposed 500-foot distance and this proposed screening does not suffice. 100 foot is inadequate to control dust caused by mulch processing traffic and equipment maneuvering on non-hard paved surfaces. It is unclear how the environmental paragraph effectively protects from industrial mulch processing health risk. Is this code foolproof in ensuring surrounding wells and streams cannot be contaminated? Is this code airtight in preventing health risks due to increased exposure of infectious and hazardous agents? The screening paragraph is insufficient in protecting neighbors from industrial mulch processing effects, and I have 4 effects, and that's the decreased property values, traffic noises and litter, mulch facility noises, diesel engines, payloader buckets and tailgates clanking, grinding of stumps and trees, and 4, ugly aesthetics, semi-trailers, mulch processing equipment, and outdoor storage of rubbish and mulch. The proposed code should prohibit waste delivery, mulch compost operation, and storage prior to having a permit. In fact, Council determined that rubbish on property constitutes a public nuisance because it harbors rodents, vermin, and other pests, poses potential health hazards, and diminishes property values. I thank you for giving me the time to speak. I just pray that you hear and think of what was presented to you. Thank you.
Excuse me, thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Shirley Hackstead. I live at 8743 Dogleg Road, which is across from the mulch processing facility that you're considering letting him go on with it. The mulch processing facility is a dangerous environment and health hazard to the neighborhood for both Vandalia and Butler Township residences and church. It is a very, very dangerous health hazard to our wells. Accidents do happen no matter how much protection coverage is put in place. This summer I came down with 2 new diseases that I've never had before. My allergies have gotten worse, and there is still a lot of dust coming from the mulching facility whenever they work out there. It's still very, very noisy, sometimes so bad that then other days that I have to wear earplugs in the house to keep the noise down. I shouldn't have to wear earplugs. And I also have to leave the house to get away from all of the noise. It really upsets me a lot at times. Traffic is really bad and getting worse. I hate to think how bad it's going to get this spring, summer, and fall. Some trailers are so overloaded that they can barely make it up the slight incline at the corner of Kirshner and Dogleg Road. I heard this noise coming, and I kept waiting for whatever was making the noise. Here comes this old truck, small old trailer, loaded down with tree stumps. He could barely make it up that incline. and then he went to Sodden Sea. It's also very dangerous to cross Dogleg Road back and forth to get our mail because of all of the trucks, traffic, speeders that's going down our street. I know you're not responsible for the speeders because it's township. I realize that. We can't keep our windows or doors open in the summertime because of all of the dust and the dirt and the smell. Sometimes when it rains, the mulch gets smelly. The dike that they built won't last forever. When we get a hard and heavy rain, it will wash it away. Then there's mud holes. The trucks can get, their equipment can get stuck in that. Then there's more noise trying to pull them out if it's necessary. I called the Vandalia police one day about the extreme loud noise, and when the policewoman came and talked to me, she told me she couldn't make any report because I live in Butler Township. The business is in Vandalia. I had to call Butler Township. I called Butler Township Police and asked if they had a loud noise ordinance, and he never answered my question and instead asked why I was calling. When I told him about the very extreme loud noise that was going on across the street, he told me that there's no law against shredding and chopping up tree trunks, tree limbs, etc. He got a little hefty and discussed it with me, but it was against the law. Mr. Harris was in one of your workshop meetings and told everyone that he never agreed to anything or signed anything agreeing to what was discussed in the Good Neighbor Agreement meeting on August the 7th, 2017. I have a copy of the signed agreement that Mr. Harris, Mr. and Mrs. Lechner, myself, the mediator, a city official, and a city employee was witness to. Mr. Harris doesn't even keep the hours agreed to in this Good Neighbor Agreement. I have a lot of moles and mice in the yard now, and it's coming, I'm sure, from all the tall leach mounds or mulch mounds that's there. In 1 week, from one Wednesday trash day to the next Wednesday trash day, I caught 14 mice in my house. I've never had that many in my house at one time, and it has to be coming from the mulch area. In closing, and before you make your final decision, please put yourself in the neighbor's shoes. Will all of you please answer to yourself truthfully the following short questions? Would you like living across the street from the mulch facility with all the loud noise, dirt, traffic, 5 days a week? Also, all the health hazards and dangerous environment that could happen. Accidents do happen, and sometimes they are very, very dangerous. Number 2, would you like to raise your family under the conditions of question number 1? Number 3, would you like to cross Dogleg Road to get the mail with all the traffic and speeders? Number 4, would you like to be told in a roundabout way that if you don't like the conditions you now have to live under, then move? It used to be a very nice, peaceful, and quiet neighborhood when we bought there 40 years ago. These were the good old days. There's no good old days in the neighborhood anymore. If your answer was no to the above questions, then I ask you to please vote the mulch processing facility down. Butler Township neighbors have the impression that that most of you do not care about the Butler Township neighbors because we don't live in Vandalia. Please prove us wrong. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Can I readdress?
There's somebody else coming up right now, yes.
Good evening. I'm Earl Moyer. I live at 2271 Kirshner Road, just slightly down from the neighbors here. So thus far, we've heard a little bit, and I understand the city attorney's point that tonight is more of a general ordinance as opposed to any specific area. But I think the advantage that the folks here are representing is the experience of living near one for over a year and having to deal with traffic or noise, dust, those kinds of things. And I think it can feed into the decision that's before you tonight on a broader scale. I want to thank you also. I'm on a Board of Zoning Appeals for Butler Township, and so I understand the process, and I appreciate very deeply the value of sitting in on your workshops and sharing the ideas back and forth. I think that's very beneficial. And we had great help back here also from your zoning gal. So appreciate that very much. Tonight I'd like to do just something a little bit different. We've heard about the traffic, we've heard about the noise and all those issues. I'd like to address what the city attorney talked about and go to a broader scale. And specifically, I'd like to read from a testimony from a doctor, an oncologist, and I think you may have seen it. I know we passed it on to April, and she may have distributed it to the council. If not, I can certainly provide those. And I'd like to read in first person. This was around a case in Dayton, Maryland, ironic there, but around Dayton, Maryland, same situation that they were finding and how they were trying to deal with the dust, all the issues around it. So if I may, I'll read in first person. My name is Victor Velkulescu, and I reside in Dayton, Maryland. I'm a professor of oncology at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, where I'm co-director of cancer biology at the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center. By the way, we've been in contact with him, and he's willing to come and speak if that's necessary. I'm also on the board of directors of the American Association of Cancer Research, the largest cancer research organization in the United States. I'm here today to speak about the health implications of the proposed mulching operations in a residential area of Dayton, Maryland. It is clear from the medical literature that industrial wood waste recycling processes result in generation of wood fragments or mulch that have a number of inherent dangers. You have heard some of these already in form of fire risk, water pollution, those types of concerns. I would like to focus on health hazards, and you'll hear from Mr. Jim Nickel, who we've also been talking with from Maryland, next on the effects in another community. The two primary hazards from industrial mulch processing are increased exposure to infectious agents, such as fungi and bacteria, and carcinogenic effects of wood dust. Although we often think of wood fragments as something natural, the amount, type, and storage of these materials that are generated in an industrial mulch scale facility are no longer on a scale that we would encounter naturally, and they are inherently unsafe. These are not theoretical risks. I have shared with you and he has a nice presentation. You may have already seen it. If not, I can get that for you also. In a recent case of a healthy retired gentleman who developed fungal pneumonia after exposure to mulch dust, he developed kidney injury and failure and died of infectious wounds later. It was clear that the fungal spores that routed from mulch were the route of the infection. There are dozens of reports and literature from throughout the world that have indicated infectious agents in mulch, primarily fungi and bacteria. Fungal spores can travel long distances on the order of miles and are of a particular risk to immune-compromised individuals, including children and the elderly. A recent study found that of the patients with a disease called fulminant mulch pneumonia, half of those died to infection and underlying kidney disease. The second clear health risk from exposure to wood dust comes from the Center of Disease Control, CDC, who has documented that wood dust particles are associated with a variety of health effects, including dermatological effects such as dermatitis, allergic respiratory effects including asthma, mucosal and non-allergic respiratory effects including bronchitis, irritation, bleeding and obstruction, as well as coughing, wheezing, sinusitis, and prolonged colds. However, the health effect that is of most concern to me is that wood dust has been categorized by the World Health Organization, WHO, and the Centers for Disease Control as a carcinogen. The CDC states, quote, "The association between exposure to wood dust and various forms of cancer has been explored in many studies and in many countries," end quote. And the World Health Organization indicates, quote, "Wood dust causes cancer of the nasal cavity and paranasal sinuses and of the nasopharynx." I'm not a doctor. It is carcinogenic to humans, end quote. There are hundreds of papers in the medical literature that document the increased risk from wood dust from nasal cancers, lung cancers, Hodgkin's lymphoma, and potentially other kinds of cancers. Carcinogens, by definition, increase the risk of cancer, especially to those exposed over long periods of time. This adjacent residential community, where there is a large number of children, many residents that spend a significant amount of time outdoors and would be directly exposed to the health risks I have described. And of course, many residents plan to live in the community for many years, even their entire lives. To allow exposure to infectious and carcinogenic agents from this type of facility to a large number of individuals in a residential area does not seem to be in the public interest. This would make Dayton, Maryland, the equivalent of Petri dish of health experimentation. Given this and other testimony that you have heard so far and may hear more, I would urge the members of the County Council, that's who he was presenting this to support legislation to limit these types of industrial mulching operations to industrial areas only and prevent them from occurring in farming, agricultural, conservation, and residential areas like those of Dayton. That's the end of his write-up, and I think there's a tremendous amount of similarities after talking to them about their community as well as the placement of the siting of these types of operations. The one in question that has been experienced by many of us in the neighborhood, there's been an operation. Prevailing winds are from the southwest towards the city of Dayton, which therefore would carry these dusts in that direction as well as over our direction when the wind changes. There's Morton Middle School is roughly 3/4 of a mile maybe away from their White Castle facility. There's probably, in my estimation, no safe site for having a conditional use of this manner in the city of Vandalia because of the residential community that it is. Kicking the can to Regional Air Pollution Control Agency, RAPCA, or Ohio EPA does not absolve the council of responsibility for your decisions tonight. Don't mean to sound preachy there, but I know you know that. I urge that you do not pass this ordinance as currently stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
My name's Diana Lechner. I live at 8839 Dogleg Road. My husband and I have resided there for 20 years, and I want to start off by reiterating things that have been mentioned by, I think, everybody else that's spoken so far. When we first moved out there, it was an overgrown, brand new but overgrown, not taken care of property whatsoever, and we had a mouse problem, which if you take care of it properly, you know, 1 or 2 treatments, they're gone. You keep your debris cleaned up, start mowing, keep things trimmed up, not a problem. 20 years later, in the last year, actually it's been like in the last 2 years since they first started doing everything over there, we are overridden by moles. It's uncontrollable. Mice in the house again, in the walls, in the attics. We're treating for those again. We keep our property cleaned up. It's not coming from our property. Shirley keeps her property cleaned up. It's not coming from her property. Our neighbors have their lawns are impeccable. It's not coming from us. It's coming from across the road. I want to address this conditional use clause that's basically being used to justify something that shouldn't be going on in the first place. It causes 2 things, and I will compound on the word conditional because that's what you're calling it, a conditional use. First off, it increases the financial condition of two men at the expense of decreasing the overall living conditions of innumerable people around them. I had pages of stuff prepared, and I'm not going to do that because I'll be real frank with you. It's become pretty clear the I don't care attitudes that I'm looking at right now. It's very discouraging, especially when we're in Butler Township and we can't vote for you all. However, living out there 20 years, we have never stopped looking at ourselves as Vandalia residents. We lived in Vandalia for 11 years first, bought out in the country because that's the life we wanted, was peace and quiet, neighbors that enjoyed the same kind of life, and that is single-handedly being destroyed by one property. I just would like someone to explain, one of you, to explain the rationale behind changing codes and ordinances and whatever you all are doing to allow one person to do whatever they want at the expense of many, everyone surrounding them, when you were elected to enforce these things, not to change them to please somebody else. That's your job. We have never stopped supporting the small businesses all around Vandalia. We haven't done what's being done to us when we moved out to Butler Township, that we're not your problem. That's not how we live our lives out there. We still continue to support small businesses. That's not what's going on across the road. What you all have done is created a city dump. I heard somebody say a couple meetings ago, oh, there used to be a dump and blah, 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 and it closed. And there's a city dump. I live across from it. There is a city dump. And the parade of traffic that Dan talked about, yeah, that's what we look at. And it's not just when it storms. I never had to wait to cross the road to get my mail. In the last 2 years, I mean, it's a stream of traffic before you can even, and it doesn't matter what hour it is. It never ends. The hours aren't being complied with. Anything they've been asked to do is not being complied with. The good neighbor agreement is a joke. Forget that. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. He was told back in June to install sprinklers. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. That's why we're living with all the dust we're living with. In closing, I would just like to say, you mentioned and wanted to reiterate that we're not talking about one property tonight, that we're talking about citywide. We all know we're talking about one property. You all might be talking in a loophole, but we all live every day with something that's already going on. We're already living across from a mulch facility, and we're all acting like it's this make-believe thing that may happen in the future. It's happened. It's going on daily. That's what we live with. So like everyone else that has stood up here, I urge you all to really think about this, because it's not going to get smaller. That city dump, the word is spreading. People are coming from Springfield further. They're dropping stuff off at an astronomical rate, and you all are applauding it. So I reiterate what everybody else said in urging you to please not pass this. Stop it now while you can still control it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Did you want to?
Since the city owned the property and took it from the Hawkinses and it went to the lady that ended up trading it with the University of Dayton that ended up going then to become Morton School. The city only, the school district as is, maintains right up to the edge of the retention pond that's there. I maintain it from the school's property all the way to the access road. The other side of the access road, which is across the street from my home, I maintain a path back to what is the city's property, all the way back to the sign that's there, and all the way down Stone Quarry Road on your property, all along the edge of the road where the township has a deal with you to be able to come cut it. They don't cut it. I cut it. You seem to forget that you own the adjacent property next to this dump. You go back through the field, you all know you once considered putting a cemetery back there. But would you want to put your loved one in that ground after the leaching effect has come through? It's going to end up into my well if you let it go that way. And that seems to be where this is headed. I'm asking you, stop it right here. Us as citizens of the township or of the Vandalia area, we don't want it at all. I'll still maintain your ground no matter what your decision is. And I do it because I want my property to look right. I want the school, when the kids go to school, I want the grounds to look proper right there. I don't see the city running over there with mowers to be able to cut that. But all the way from the road to there, I cut that. I don't ask for anything for it. But I'm asking you today, do the right thing. Say no. That's all it takes. Say no.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name's Teresa Haynes and I live on Evermere Drive. And basically, I'll make this short. I just want to reiterate what everybody else has said. We're worried about our water. The mold situation is ridiculous. The dirt, the noise, it's not a place I want to live anymore. So I just want to make it clear that Evermere Drive is also wanting you to say no.
Thank you. I was just asking. You were so quick. I forgot that you did say your name and address for our record, so thank you very much. Anyone else?
My name's Danita Arrowwood. I live at 2720 Evermere Drive. Basically, the mulch pile is in my front yard. There is a property, there's a street, Evermere, and a property that backs up to the mulch pile, but I see through the two properties, and that's the mulch pile is what I see. I can tell you today there were 3 semi-sized trailers, open bed, come through, filled up with mulch, and left. I can tell you every time it rains, he turns on his grinder and begins grinding whatever he can get done while it's raining, because my assumption and others' assumption is that he's not put in the sprinkler system he's supposed to. I work from home. I'm a healthcare education developer for an international company based in Alpharetta, Georgia. So I work from home, and on several days I've had to close my windows because the noise is so loud. I'm in a conference call. The dust, if the windows are open, I can do this and write my name on the dust on the window seals if there's any sort of stirring of air at all. I can tell you the first time I spoke with Mr. Leitner was just after, on a Sunday, I'd listened to the grinding all day. It was still warm weather, probably July, June. I didn't know a lot of this was going on till then. So I just wanted to share with you my personal in my front yard experience. I just moved into this property in August of 2016. If this operation was the size it is right now, I would not have bought this property. So I appreciate you for giving me the time to speak.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move that we deny ordinance 1733 in its second reading.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Farr, second by Councilman Ehlers, to deny ordinance 1733 in its second reading. Are there any comments?
I'd like to comment. I should have spoken up last time, but I thought there was more support for this. what our attorney says is true, though, and that's the way we have to think about that. To me, makes it even more important. If this passes, we're saying that this can go in other applicable locations in the city of Vandalia that are now zoned agricultural. Our job up here is to do what's in the best interest of the city, and I have that question too. I do not see anything with letting this go through that is a positive in our city. Whenever you have to do something as a conditional use that has so many controls, it implies that what's being done there is not a positive thing. To me, even with this conditional use or with this conditional use, this is going to be a control nightmare. Trying to keep track of his hours, what's going in there, what's not, whether it's monitored, whether it's not. I know council thinks that there's enough controls on this that it will be okay. I don't see that. I see this as a total negative to the city. I see it as a negative that anybody that wants to go around a business of this sort, wherever it would be in the city, is a very negative thing, and I just don't understand it.
Anyone else? Bob?
Yes, I'd also like to address this. I voted for this in the first reading, and I have changed my vote to a no vote in the second reading. And I want to address a few things that were said. First of all, making a statement that we don't care about all citizens, I think, is a grossly inaccurate statement. We are sitting up here being elected by the citizens of Vandalia to represent them. But I can assure you that we have the best interest of all the citizens, not only in Vandalia, but also the surrounding areas, Englewood, Heber Heights, Butler Township, Clayton, Union, all of it. We work with those townships and cities all the time to represent the citizens in the best interest of all citizens. The second issue is the attitude that thinks that's been displayed is that the don't care attitude. I can assure you, just as Jerry said, we've been at this thing since February of this year. We would not have spent 10 months discussing this thing almost on a monthly basis if we don't care attitude. So we put due diligence in this, and there probably will be a varied vote on this tonight, a few yeses and a few nos. We'll see how it goes. The traffic, the noise, the dust, yes, it's all there. We know that it does create that environment. But the thing that I stand on is that we had tried to settle this with an arbitration hearing, I think it was, or mediation, and the individual that spoke, there was an agreement that was signed, and it was totally ignored by the owner. And I don't see any evidence that this owner of this property and this business is willing and implementing anything that we're putting forth. I see it's been being totally ignored, and therefore I'm swinging my vote for a no tonight. It was established without approval, and the second thing is you're right, that's zoned agriculture out there, and this application belongs in industrial. So that's my view.
Mr. McDonald?
With all due respect to everything you said, the couple things just want to make sure we understand is that the reason for the mediation was to see if there was workable solutions. There appeared that there could possibly be workable solutions, but that wasn't a binding agreement. And in my opinion, it would be improper to base your decision on the failure of him to abide by that agreement. However, you also stated several other reasons. So you know, I'm not saying you have to change your mind on anything. The other thing is I heard a lot of you out there about the conditions being ignored. They're not in place yet. So that's, you know, when we have these things about time and stuff like that, that's what is on the table. That is what's being proposed. So if this were to pass tonight, those conditions would then be something that would now no longer be just planned. Those are going to be the requirements. Those are going to be the things that the property owner has to do. So I just wanted to make sure that was understanding. But the more important thing was just to reiterate that that agreement really should not be, whether or not it was passed or signed or even adhered to, should not be the sole basis for the decision.
I understand that, but it was a good neighbor agreement. There was some things that he was going to do to alleviate some of the issues that were out there, and I realize it's not binding, but I mean, even hours of operation, we got evidence that he stated that he was going to adhere to these hours of operation, and there's been many violations of it, so that's my view.
Anyone else? Seeing none, will you please call the roll? And wait, let's just go back once again.
Motion to deny.
This is to deny. Okay.
Yes, a motion to deny the use. Councilmember Gerhardt.
No.
Councilmember Farce.
Yes.
Councilmember Herbst.
No.
Councilmember Ehlers.
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley.
No.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
No.
Mayor Setzer.
I'll vote no also, and so that's 5 no and 2 yeses.
That's correct. So the motion to deny
Is passed.
the motion to deny did not go through. So now, if anybody wants this to go through, there would need to be a motion to adopt.
I make a motion to approve. I don't have it. 1733 in the second reading.
34. Isn't it 34?
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, I'm looking way down here. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was looking at the wrong motion. Yeah, it's 733 is correct. I'm sorry.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Gerhardt, second by Vice Mayor Lewis, that we approve. Is this correct? Okay. Ordinance 1733 in its second reading. Comments from anybody? Does everybody understand? Okay. Call the roll.
Okay, motion to approve. Councilmember Farce.
No.
Councilmember Herbst.
Yes.
Councilmember Ehlers.
No.
Councilmember Blakesley.
Yes.
Councilmember Gerhardt.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
Yes.
Mayor Setzer.
Yes. And the motion passes 5-2. Okay, going on, we have an emergency ordinance this evening, and that's 17-34. Mr. McDonald.
1734, an ordinance to revise appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Vandalia, Montgomery County, Ohio, during the calendar year ending December 31, 2017, and amending Ordinance 1639 and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy?
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, so this ordinance would amend 2017 appropriations as follows. The general fund, an additional $226,900 as follows. $21,500 to account for an increase in bank service fees as a result of an accounting change. This increase will be offset by an increase in interest revenue. We've got $38,000 to account for additional legal expenses related to negotiations, zoning issues, and litigation. And now we've got a series of items. So the first one is it's $91,700 still in the general fund. Again, this is to account for a utility change due to a change in accounting. So December utility charges were previously paid the following January. So auditors are now requiring that all 2017 utility charges be paid from 2017 appropriations, which means we're going to have 13 months of utility charges being paid in 2017. So we have to appropriate funds for an additional month for this year. And then we've got $75,700 additional. Those are for refuse charges, the same thing. We're making 13 months worth of refuse charges in 2017. In the street fund, it's an additional $11,500, and that's for utility charges that are paid out of the street fund. The golf fund is $3,825, again, for utility charges paid out of the golf fund. The water fund is $116,600, and those are NAWA and postage charges. Again, NAWA is the water authority that we pay and we purchase water from. So we'll have 13 months worth of water charges in 2017. In the sewer fund, it's $81,600, and that's for TCA and postage charges. Again, TCA is the wastewater authority for which we pay for wastewater services, so we'll be paying 13 months of TCA charges as well. In the police, fire, street CIP fund, it's an additional $240,400. $232,000 of that is funds for our local match related to the ODOT Airport resurfacing project that Council approved earlier this evening. $8,500 is to appropriate funds for the Peters Pike debt payment. It was originally budgeted in the Stone Quarry Crossings TIF fund. However, we didn't receive the TIF payment in time to make the debt service payment, so that had to be paid out of this fund. And then in the Stone Quarry Crossings TIF fund, we have a reduction of $14,575 to account for that revenue being received late this year.
Thank you. Since this is an ordinance and as an emergency, I will open up a public hearing. So if there's anyone in the audience that wants to make comment about the emergency ordinance, would you please come to the podium, state your name and address for our records and your comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Your Honor, I move that we approve the emergency ordinance 17-34 as read.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Herbst, second by Councilman Ehlers, that we do approve ordinance 17-34 in its second reading, or as an emergency. Any comments? Seeing none, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Herbst?
Yes.
Councilmember Ehlers?
Yes.
Councilmember Blakesley?
Yes.
Councilmember Gerhard?
Yes.
Councilmember Farce?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lewis?
Yes.
Mayor Setzer?
Yes, and the motion passes 7-0. Council, you have reports from boards and commissions, and those include the Board of Zoning Appeals minutes of October the 25th, the Community Area Reinvestment Housing Council draft minutes of November the 17th, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board draft minutes of November the 15th, Planning Commission minutes of October the 10th, Public Art in Vandalia draft minutes of November the 21st, and Vandalia Cultural Arts Committee draft minutes of November the 21st. With that, we're to council comments, starting with Mr. McDonald.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Cruzy?
Nothing this evening.
Okay, we go to Councilman Ehlers.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Blakesley.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Gerhart.
No comment this evening.
Councilwoman Farce.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Herbst.
Yeah, I do have one comment. Several of us attended the Christmas lighting here this past Sunday. Like to congratulate staff for putting on a great event, and the Morton Middle School Choir was fantastic, and it was very well attended, and I think the kids really appreciated it, especially when Santa arrived in the fire truck. So it was a good time had by all.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Lewis.
None, Your Honor.
And I have none, so I will adjourn the meeting.
That was a rough afternoon.